Time Travel Adventure, The Campout Secrets, Kids Adventure Stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Steve has two friends, Ted and Tallahan. They go on an adventure to the woods, where they camp out and have a fun time together. But when they run into an unknown object, their future is about to change. They return to the village they came from and discover the importance of this strange item they just found in the forest. Find out more about Steve's experience in this short story, his diary, and be surprised by the outcome of the secret powers his friends and he have unleashed. Chapter 1. Out in Nature. This is Steve. I am 14 years old. Well, I don't know how else to start a diary or journal. Whatever, this is the first time. I just want to write down what happened recently. It was amazing, but it was also incredible. And by that I mean that it would be hard to believe unless I explain every detail, and even then there may be doubters. What I experienced with my friends goes beyond the normal and the natural. It was supernatural, that was for sure. We actually didn't believe it ourselves at first. So let me just get to it, or I will just keep rambling about how unbelievable and weird it was. It all started when we decided to explore the environment. You see, our village is surrounded by gorgeous mountains, but we just never went there, partially because our parents were so busy and we didn't want to go by ourselves. My friends, Ted and Tallahan, were about the same age at that time, and were happy that their parents finally agreed to let them go off on their own, with me, of course. So we did. We planned a camping trip. First, we packed our bags, the tent, and some cooking equipment. It was exciting. My dad was proud of me, since this would mean I would become more mature, being self-reliant and all. My mom was a little worried, but she gave in and let me go. She knew that it would be safer if there were 3 of us. It was a hot summer day. We met in front of my house and took off after hitting each other on the shoulder, like guys do. "What do you want to do first?" Tallahan asked. "I just want to go towards the mountains," I said. "When we get there, we'll decide what to do first. If we do all kinds of things first, it may be dark already when we arrive at a good spot. So let's find a spot first. After that, we can have as much fun as we want." "Sounds like a plan," Tallahan said. "Maybe we could eat some rabbits," Ted said. We both looked at him. That comment was completely misplaced. Tallahan was a pretty smart kid, but Ted? Sometimes we wondered what was up with him. Yes, maybe, I said. We were all silent. For some reason, we just didn't have anything to add, so we all kept packing our stuff. Chapter 2. Tent. We put our backpacks on our backs. We said goodbye to our families and started our journey. As we walked towards the mountains, we passed by beautiful orchards, farmlands, and forests. At the foot of the mountain, we paused. "That looks like a long way up there," Ted said. "Not so," I said. "We're not going all the way up there, just halfway. It will be good enough. That's where we'll pitch our tents." We started climbing up. We were lucky there was a clear path, but it was steep. Every once in a while we rested, being severely fatigued after such a tough climb. But eventually, after a few hours, we came to an area where the road wasn't so steep anymore. We discovered a creek and some lush green bushes and trees. "Let's move up a little more and then pitch our tent near the creek somewhere," I suggested. My friends agreed it was a good idea. After another half hour, we picked a spot and pitched our tent. It was tricky, and we noticed how much clear communication mattered when you're working together as a team. Ted was too clumsy to put the pins in the ground, Tallahan was complaining about the wind, and I just couldn't find some of the tiny items that make a tent complete. When we were done, we put our backpacks in there, laid out the sleeping bags, and took a look at the creek. "I bet you can't beat my record," Tallahan said. "What's your record?" I asked. "Skipping a rock 27 times on the water." "No way." "It's true. So what do you say, Steve? Are you up for a challenge?" "Bring it on." With that remark, I picked up some flat rocks and started skipping them on the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, I said. That's not bad, is it? But it's not 27, Talahan said. Well, if you skip a rock 3 times 12, it will be 36, Ted added. So all you have to do is do it 2 more times and then you beat his record. We both looked at each other and rolled our eyes while smiling. That's not how it works, Ted. It has to be with the same rock. Oh, Ted said. Then maybe you could get the rock from the bottom of the creek and use it again. Like recycling. We couldn't stop laughing. Ted and his simple logic. Sometimes we actually learned something from his way of thinking. It made more sense than some of the complicated matters adults come up with. Sure, Ted, Talahan finally said. After some fun skipping rocks, we got our fishing gear out. Fishing is one of the most boring things in the universe, Talahan said. I couldn't agree with you more, I said. But I heard there is some good trout in this creek, so let's just give it a try. We split up. I stayed with the fishing rods, and the other 2 went to fetch some wood for a campfire. When they came back, I proudly presented a big trout I caught. They were impressed. I was happy to see they made themselves useful, too. Let's get this fire going, I said. It was great. We roasted fish and marshmallows and hot dogs. Ted kept burning the marshmallows, even after we tried to show him how far away he should hold them from the fire. Have you guys ever wished to perform some heroic deed? Talahan asked when we were just chilling at the fire. What are you aiming at? I asked. Just, do something that you're proud of, something that means something to other people. Yes, I have, I said after a little thinking. I once had a dream that I rescued some girl. She was being attacked by shades and guardians, but I came to snatch her away and put her to safety. And then I fought the enemies one by one. It was a pretty spectacular dream, to be honest. Ha! And who was the girl? Olivia? Catherine? Sylvia? Talahan asked. Oh, come on. Do I have to reveal to you who I think is the hottest girl in our class? Yes, of course. I kind of like Sylvia, I admitted. Ooh, the 2 boys shouted with a grin on their faces, teasing me a little. Steve has a crush on Sylvia. Shh, I don't have a crush, I said. Sure, it's okay. Nobody can hear us here in the mountains. Well, what about you? I asked. Who do you like? Talahan blushed a little, but then he told me. We were just having discussions boys have about girls, about cool stuff, kids we hated, sports, etc. When we were full, especially with the delicious fish I caught, we went into the tent and slept all night. It was peaceful, with the sound of the flowing water in the creek and the rustling leaves on the trees. Chapter 3. Weird Things. The next day, we climbed some trees and prepared another meal. We all went swimming, despite the fact that the water was a little cold. And in the evening, we sat around another campfire. Then I saw something. Hey, what's that? I asked. Talahan and Ted came to look. It looked like another pebble, but it was purple. I had never seen a purple pebble before. I picked it up and held it in front of me. Weird, Ted admitted. Perhaps it is a dark pearl, Talahan said. I have heard of those. They're always purple and shiny. They can be found in the mountains, and they make you do strange things. Yeah, looks like it, I said. It's almost like it is magical or something. Here, let me rub off the dirt. I started getting it smooth by rubbing it with my t-shirt. Something happened. I don't know what. But before we knew it, we were at the campfire again. Everything looked the same. Have you guys ever wished to perform some heroic deed? Talahan asked when we were just chilling at the fire. Wait, what? I asked. Just, do something that you're proud of. Something that means something to other people. Hold on. What did you say? Didn't you hear me? It's just that I thought of how cool it would be to prevent some disaster, or to do something that would serve humanity. No, that's what I mean, I said. I heard you, but it just doesn't make any sense. You already said what you said. He raised one eyebrow. You're the one who's not making any sense, he said. I was confused. Didn't he already ask the exact same thing yesterday? Why would he ask that question again? And why did it look like Ted was burning the same marshmallow in the same way as the day before? You asked me the same question yesterday, I insisted. Have you forgotten that? Okay, you're starting to freak me out, Steve, Talahan said. I didn't even see you yesterday, so how could I have asked that question a day earlier? What? But we were here at the campfire. You were asking me this, and then I told you that I liked Sylvia, and we talked about other things. You like Sylvia? Ted asked. Ha 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 ha. Talahan smirked. Well, thanks for telling us that, but we really weren't here yesterday. I think you're going a little nuts. Then I looked at the dark pearl. Did I just go back in time? Maybe the magical power of this strange pearl was to go back in time. But how would I know for sure? I thought and thought while Ted and Talahan were chatting away. Then I had it. What's today's date? I asked. Huh? It's the 23rd, of course, Talahan said. There was my proof. I had gone back a day. When I rubbed the pearl, it shoved me back in time for a whole day. Our conversation changed. We didn't talk so much about girls or sports anymore. I showed them the dark pearl I had found, the day after, actually, and we tried to find out what it could do. Guys, I said in all seriousness, this is a magical object. They both looked. Oh, I've heard of those. They're dark pearls, Talahan said. Yes, and it sent me back in time. It did what? Talahan asked. It sent me back in... Stop! That hot dog is going to fall into the fire, I warned Ted. But it was too late. The hot dog fell. Hey, how did you know it would fall? Ted asked. That's what I've been trying to tell you. I went back in time. Oh yeah, then what am I going to do now? Talahan asked. Well, I don't know everything that's going to happen, I explained, but I rubbed the pearl and went back a day. That's so cool, Ted admitted. Hold on, let's say you were right. What are we going to do with it? Talahan asked. Let me figure that out later. I am open to suggestions, but let me just say that we have a very powerful pearl here, something we can use to change lives, including our own. Time travel, Talahan said while rubbing his chin. We talked some more, including about some of the possibilities this newfound power could give us. However, we didn't come up with a lot of ideas that were both ethical and useful. We were going to keep it and think of it later. Chapter 4. The Danger. The next day, the two boys went swimming and climbed some trees. I didn't really feel like joining them because I felt I had already done those activities the day before. So I just sat there and contemplated the influence this dark pearl would have on our lives. We need to use this for something good, I said, while my friends were splashing water at each other. But what? Talahan asked. I don't know. Prevent crime, help those in need, something like that. Nothing ever happens in this village anyway. I know, so maybe we should just hide it away until something does. Sounds good to me, Talahan said as he shrugged his shoulders. Just don't tell anyone, okay? I said. Okay. Ted? Tell what? He asked. Never mind. I thought that if he didn't know, then he probably wouldn't tell anyone. I asked them to do something else, since watching them play in the water had become a little boring. We went to look for berries, so we just left the tent there with our gear, considering it safe enough for the moment. We took off and started searching. Talahan said he had heard of blueberries being up here, but I was eager to find some raspberries. Those were my favorite. Ted wasn't clear about what he wanted. He put a pine cone in his mouth and even tried to eat a leaf. We both kind of laughed about his silly experiments. He said he wanted to prove that you could eat leaves, which he did, but it didn't look like he was enjoying it, and that's why we cracked up. When we went up the mountain a bit more, Talahan suddenly stopped me and said, Don't move a muscle. He was staring in the distance. I tried to see what he was looking at. Then I saw it. It was a bear. It was huge. I was as silent as I could be. The bear was brown and looking mean, but it didn't notice us. What was it doing? It's eating our berries, Ted said as if he heard my thoughts somehow. Quiet, you idiot, Talahan sneered. But it was too late. The bear had picked up the sound of Ted's voice and was quickly moving towards us, growling loudly and showing its teeth. Run, I said. We all tried to run downhill, which I have to mention is really hard to do without tripping. I mean, I don't consider myself a very clumsy character, but this time I just got my foot stuck behind a tree branch and fell forward. I saw the giant bear coming at me. It was getting closer. It swung at me with its sharp claws and... When we went up the mountain a bit more, Talahan suddenly stopped me and said, "Don't move a muscle." Huh? Is this where we were? In desperation, I had just rubbed the dark pearl a little, trying to place us back in time so we could avoid being chased by a dangerous bear. The bear was staring at us. It was looking for berries, but I already knew that Ted was going to be stupid enough to open his mouth. So I jumped towards him and covered his mouth with my hand. I held it there and made sure he couldn't say anything. When I let go, he quietly said, "How did you know I was going to say something?" "I've been telling you guys that I went back in time yesterday, so that's what I just did." "Wait, you went back in time tomorrow to tell me to be quiet now, which is exactly yesterday for you?" he asked. Ted was making things needlessly complicated. "No," I whispered. "I just went back to the time we were watching the bear because I was almost becoming its lunch. Now let's get out of here before the same thing happens all over again." "That's weird, man," Ted said after thinking for a while. My friends and I left and went back to the tent, which was a lot farther away. Just to be safe, we left the mountains that day, because we didn't want the bear to find us. Chapter 5. Back at the Village. We came home and our parents greeted us. They asked about our adventures in the mountains, and we just told them about swimming, campfires, and berries, but not about the bear, since that would cause them to be worried. Nor did we tell them about the dark pearl with its magical powers. That would just confuse them. Besides, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it yet. It sounded so powerful, but so bad if it would fall into the wrong hands. I would soon find a way to use it, though. The next day we met in school. As we were sitting there, the teacher asked everyone what they did last weekend. "I went on a pony ride," one girl said. It sounded a little childish, but then she explained that she trained horses, and that she learned a lot about guiding them by rewarding them with carrots and such. "We worked on the farm," another kid said. He told us how they milked the cows, stacked the hay, and gathered the water from trenches and wells in the ground. "We went camping," I said when it was my turn. I told the class about our hike up the mountain, our campfire, and climbing trees. Talahan told a similar story, just adding little bits and pieces to what I was already saying from his perspective. Then it was Ted's turn. "We found a magical stone that turns back time," he said bluntly. I buried my face in my hands. "Oh, that sounds interesting," the teacher said. "Please tell us more about that." "Well," he started, "we were attacked by a bear, and then Steve told me to shut up because I was making too much noise, but the bear didn't see me, so it was okay, and the stone looked purple. It was more like a pearl, a purple pearl. And at the campfire, Steve predicted the future because I dropped my hot dog, and he just knew it was going to happen, so that's when we decided to not tell anyone about it, but I just did." He realized what he just said. I expected the worst. "Whoops," he said softly. The entire class looked at me. How was I going to talk myself out of this one? Why couldn't he just keep his mouth shut about the dark pearl? I knew we couldn't trust him. He couldn't help it. "Well," the teacher said. At first I looked worried, then sheepish, and then confident. I was going to pretend to lie by telling part of the truth. My sarcasm had no boundaries. Everybody knew that. So I would use it to my advantage. "Oh, he is totally right," I said with a funny tone in my voice. "We found this magical rock that helps us turn back time. We can even travel to the future and turn your nose into a pig's nose." Everybody laughed, everybody except for Ted. "It can do that too?" he asked with big eyes. "Yes, I just didn't want to tell you because I wanted to pull a prank on you. I was going to sneak up on you in your sleep and give you a pig's nose just for fun. But now that you discovered my secret, me and my big mouth, sorry I spoiled it. Maybe I could still do it to someone who doesn't know about that special feature." Ted looked happy. He was probably relieved that I wasn't going to give him a pig's nose anymore. And the rest of the class didn't take me seriously at all. They thought it was all just a big joke. That sounds very funny, Steve. I am sure you can make up a lot of stuff about all kinds of magical objects, but we are trying to have a serious conversation about what we did in the weekends here. Sorry, teacher, I said. It's okay. Let's hear it from someone else. After class, I didn't even get angry at Ted. Like I said, I didn't think he could help himself. He was just a little different. Talahan came to me and told me what a genius I was for talking my way out of that one. Thanks, I said. Have you thought of what we could do with this yet? We could win the lottery, he said. I guess so, but I don't know if that's what this was intended for. Let's think about it a little more. It's not like we desperately need money. Besides, that would be kind of dishonest, wouldn't it? Only if you get caught, Talahan said. I laughed. That Talahan and his way of justifying everything. I knew he meant well, but sometimes he crossed the moral line a little in my eyes. Chapter 6. Secret Enemies. I came home and listened to my mom and dad having a discussion. They were pretty worried, to say the least. Shades are about to attack the village, my dad said. They have been spotted outside the village terrain, and some of them were particularly hostile. They attacked a couple of villagers, and now the whole town is anxious and upset. How many do you think there are? Mom asked. I don't know. Some have mentioned a few, others dozens, and one of the villagers even said he saw hundreds of them hiding in the forest. What are they after? You know. They are uncivilized, vicious beasts. They don't have to have a reason. They simply want to destroy our town, I am sure. My mom looked scared, and my dad noticed he went a little overboard. But, he said quickly, trying to soothe my mom's mind, I think that if we just leave them alone, they won't come any closer. Maybe they just want to perform a few simple acts of violence and then head back to where they came from. Who knows? Besides, we live in the town center. They will probably attack the homes at the town borders first. I sure hope so, my mom said. I couldn't sleep that night. I just knew I had bumped into this mysterious dark pearl for a reason, and now the village seemed to be in peril. I didn't know how at the time, but perhaps I could make myself useful in some way. If I could utilize the pearl's magical powers, I would be able to save lives. Chapter 7. Raids. They came one by one. It was hard to stop because it was so sporadic. The shades that attacked the village were vicious and ruthless. A little battle here, a little killing there. It was unstoppable. One of the shades that attacked the village was a small, sneaky one. The Burgess family had been living on the town's borders for a long time, but now they were seriously thinking about moving. When the sneaky shade snuck into their home, it destroyed all the fruits in the basement and all the vegetables in the shed. After that, it came after them. Dad, Dad, the little girl screamed. Where are you? Come on, honey, the mother told her while holding on to their newborn baby. She came running out of the house, trying to protect her offspring but fearing for the life of her husband. They left, looking back and seeing something happen on the window through the window. But they didn't have time to stay. The father would meet them at his brother's place, but he never made it. The next day there was a funeral, but during the ceremony, an entire horde of shades made this moaning sound and attacked the attendants. Many were harmed, few were killed. That same evening, a giant shade, at least 15 feet tall, entered the village and began bashing walls and hitting monuments. When the townspeople fought back with pitchforks and pickaxes, they were simply smashed to the ground. People were kicked hundreds of feet away by this gigantic monster. Others were simply stepped on or pinned to the wall of one of their homes. It was mayhem. It was awful. Reports from deaths by shades or losses through those assaulting enemies were all over the place. People were distressed. The village held a council meeting which my dad attended. He brought me along just to observe what was going on, and maybe because they were so desperate they could have used advice from anyone willing to add an insight of some sort, even teenagers. Our village is dying, the mayor said. We have come together because we cannot hold back the shades any longer. Their random riots and assassinations have become too much. This should have never happened. If we don't do something, we will all be exterminated." "Let's burn the forest," someone suggested. "Then they will only be forced to come out and kill more of us," another disagreed. "Maybe we should attack them," my dad suggested. "They would never see it coming." "Sounds like an idea," the mayor said. "But even if we could kill some of them, we wouldn't have the manpower or the fighting skills to get rid of them completely. We have heard reports of hundreds of these terrible creatures lurking beneath the shadows. How are we ever going to match that?" "We should find out what they want," I said. Everyone turned to me. "Who is this?" the mayor asked. This is my son," my dad said proudly. Then the mayor turned to me and asked, "And how are we going to do that, young man? They don't speak our language. They don't even talk. They simply come in and start pillaging our village. How do you suggest we find out about their motives?" I was silent. "I don't know," I admitted. "But if we could somehow discover that, they might leave us alone after that." "We will keep it in mind," the mayor said. "Any other ideas?" Chapter 8. Even Weirder. When we came home from the meeting that night, I was sad. I mourned because of the families who had lost loved ones. People who had been brutally murdered by those disgusting monsters. It just wasn't fair. We didn't even know why they were attacking us. Usually, shades would leave us alone if we didn't look them in the eyes. We always had to make sure we didn't bother them, and they wouldn't respond. But this time it was different. They were angry. They were after something. I sat there in the middle of the night, thinking about the causes of all these unusual events. Then I thought of the only thing I could do, the only thing that made actual sense. I was going to go back in time and find out about the root causes of all this. If I could only get close to the shades and search for a motive, I might be able to prevent all these tragedies. I decided. I was determined to solve this. This was the reason I found the dark pearl. I took it out of my pocket and rubbed it. I rubbed it hard just to make sure it would work. Before I knew it, I was back in the living room. It wasn't night anymore, but during the afternoon. My parents had a discussion. They were pretty worried, to say the least. "Shades are about to attack the village," my dad said. "They have been spotted outside the village terrain, and some of them were particularly hostile. They attacked a couple of villagers, and now the whole town is anxious and upset." "How many do you think there are?" Mom asked. "I don't know. Some have mentioned a few, others dozens, and one of the villagers even said he saw hundreds of them hiding in the forest." I recognized this conversation, and it was before it actually all happened. Nobody had died yet, and I was going to make sure it would never happen. I told my parents I had to go outside and ran out. Then I went to Talahan's house. "Psst, Talahan," I said while looking up. He opened his bedroom window. "What's going on?" he asked. "Want to follow me into the forest? I have the feeling we can really use this weird pearl we found." "Sure, give me a second and I will be right there," he said. A little later, he stood next to me in front of his house. "So what have you learned?" he asked. "These shades are going to kill villagers," I said. "It already happened. Well, in the future. Well, in the future, I guess, but I went back in time, to the present time, to stop it." "That is so awesome," Talahan said. "So you are from the future?" "Yes, well, I know what's going to occur, and now I want to make an attempt to prevent a disaster from happening. Does that make sense?" "Of course. Shall we get Ted too?" "Let's leave Ted where he is," I said with a smile. "Let's just go together, just the two of us. I am sure we'll get to the bottom of this." We ventured to the forest with the dark pearl. To be honest, it was kind of spooky, with the fog and the eerie sounds we heard. We couldn't see much, so we stayed close to each other. The fog was so thick that we could only see about 15 feet in front of us, if that. As we slowly approached the open space in the middle of the forest, which was a place where I thought we had the biggest chance of encountering shades, we heard the sound of feet. Like I said, we couldn't see much, but we were certain that we were being followed. We turned around but saw nothing. When we turned around again, "Ah!" Talahan and I screamed. A creepy shade was right in front of us, staring in our eyes from only 2 feet away. Where did that one come from all of a sudden? But he wasn't the only one catching us by surprise. Before we could say another word, we were surrounded by shades. They were all coming closer and staring at us. Why weren't they trying to kill us? I didn't understand any of this. "Quickly," Talahan whispered. "Get the dark pearl. Maybe we could go back to the time before they snuck up on us." I took it out of my pocket, but that brought about a reaction I didn't expect. As soon as these mean-looking shades saw the dark pearl, they all kneeled down. What was happening? Were they worshipping this item or something? One of the shades wasn't kneeling. It looked like their leader. He came forward and made a gesture as if to say, "Hand it over." Then it clicked in my mind. Perhaps they lost this precious pearl and were about to start their killing spree out of anger. Perhaps they were just looking for it in their desperate attempts to search the place. Perhaps giving it back to them would stop this nonsense before it even happened. "What are you doing?" Talahan asked. "Don't give that to them. It's our only way out." But he missed the point. He didn't get it, so I ignored his advice and handed the dark pearl to the shade. He gladly accepted my gift. When he held it, he looked at it with joy. The other shades were still kneeling. Then he held it up and expressed some weird sounds I had never heard before. It was probably in their language, or so I figured. When he was done talking, the shades stood up and followed him. They were headed into the direction of the mountains, away from the village. We both stared at the departing black creatures, trying to make sense of what had just happened. "This is awesome," I finally said. "They are gone, gone! They won't ever come back. All they were doing was searching for their pearl. It's so simple if you think about it." "So that was it then?" Talahan asked. "They just wanted their pearl back." "Yes, and remember you said you wanted to perform a heroic deed? Now you did. We just prevented the deaths of numerous villagers. We just prevented a war. Aren't you proud of yourself?" "A little," Talahan said. "I just pictured it to be different. You know, with sword fighting and swinging and picking up a beautiful girl to save her from the scourging flames of a fire, or to be carried on the villagers' shoulders and have an after-party." "Oh, come on. You have to admit this was cool. It doesn't matter that nobody saw it. We know what we did, and that counts for something." Talahan was still a little upset when we walked home. He didn't get the same heroic feeling as I did. We talked some more, going over the events that had been taking place since we found that mysterious pearl. Then suddenly, out of the blue, he said, almost crying, "But we could have won the lottery!" The end. This has been Time Travel Adventure, The Campout Secrets, Kids Adventure Stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Veskins. Production copyright 2017 by Jeff Child.